All right, everybody, welcome back. This is Archangel Inc. Live number 7, I believe. And I have
Love
once
it.
again with me here my fellow Archangel Inc. comrade, Mr. Jordan Ring. How are you, Jordan?
Good. What's up, guys? How you doing today?
All right, folks. So this topic tonight that I want to talk about is why people fail at self-publishing. Whether is it a good idea? Should I be considering doing this? Why is it that people don't have the success that they're looking for? And then hopefully some ideas on what they can do to maximize their chances of success if they decide that this is the path for them. So I have a handful of ideas and thoughts on the topic. And Jordan, I want to just open the floor to you first. I proposed this a little bit earlier when we were chatting, and I'd love to hear your thoughts and open the floor to you.
Sure. I think we'll just dive right into it. I think, we talked about before, I think in some of our previous videos about the idea that the Kindle gold rush is kind of over. I mean, that may have been around 10 years ago. I don't remember exactly when, KDP started and people published Kindle books because I was not around then. But a lot of people have been talking about that. You can obviously still make money with self-publishing. A lot of people do it, but it's just getting harder and harder to dive into it. You really have to be in it for the long haul. You have to be willing to learn a lot yourself, even if you bring on people and build a team around you, which is super important. We've talked about that as well, but it takes a lot to get going. There's a lot of different knowledge pieces, and each one kind of stacks on the other. That is just super important to, you got to get the keywords just right. You got to make sure that you have a good book cover, something that can compete with the market. There's so many details that come into it, and yeah, it's tough. It's hard. It's hard to break into it. That all being said, I think it's still definitely something that people can jump into, but you have to be asking yourself the right questions. Are you willing to learn all of that stuff, or bring a team on that can help you do that? Are you willing to not just write the first book? Are you willing to build a platform around that book, or expand upon the platform you already have? But really, I think it's just asking yourself, what are you doing it for? Are you using that book to get a bigger audience, to grow that platform, to eventually sell? Maybe you have a video course that you want to sell, or you want to go down the line and do speaking engagements. A book can be fantastic for that. I think that is just it's a huge piece that a lot of places they'll consider. You're in some ways you're kind of automatically the expert on something if you've written a book. You've at least put the time in to create a product. Even if they don't read the book, you've created the book. You've gone and done the research to be able to get that out there. Even if the book, and hopefully the book is good and has good resources, information, but even if it's terrible, you still have a book you've written on the subject and have at least done some, research to put that thing together. And it just shows you have a little bit of credibility.
Right. Yep.
I'll let you jump in. I was saying a lot there, but just to sum up, I think it's definitely still valuable to get into the whole self-publishing arena, but it's not a money-making grub. It's not something you can jump into and hope that I'm going to put 6 months of work into this and then, get a whole bunch after it. You really have to have other things going on to capitalize on the platform.
Right. Yeah, no, all great points. So also want to mention Dale Roberts. Thanks for dropping in. What's up, Mr. Dale? Anybody else who wants to comment or ask questions along the way and share thoughts and our ideas, we're happy to make this interactive. It was a lot of fun last week, and we're able to do that this week and in the future going forward. That would be super fun for us and hopefully instructive and helpful for folks out there listening. So, okay, Jordan, great points about all of that. And this is something that I think is a recurring theme for us. The idea that the Kindle Gold Rush is over. Yeah. When I first got into this 6, 7, 8 years-ish ago, that was still kind of happening a little bit. And again, this is something that people experience when you have a book out there that you can just click on a link and have instantly in your little device on your phone or something. That was really cool. That was really novel back then. Yeah. And it's a little bit less novel these days. There is a sense, we just get used to all of these miracles around us, all of these technological miracles. One of the things I was thinking about recently was I rewatched Back to the Future. And I thought it was so cool when I was a kid that they had this video.
Love Back to the Future.
Right. It's a cool movie. It's a fun trilogy. There are a lot of great things about it. And one of the things that astounded me about it, and I thought was just so futuristic, was you had video conferencing, and I think there was some boss that was kind of yelling at the employee or something, and get this taken care of right now, or whatever the deal was. But they were video conferencing, and I thought, man, that is crazy. Like, is that even possible? Can you do that? And I'm sure sometime in the far future this is going to happen. And I share this from time to time. We've had Skype now for a decade. I don't know, maybe longer than that, and we just become so used to it. So so the novelty of just being able to have a book is kind of gone. That said, there's still something to self-publishing. It's really miraculous in another sense that we have the ability to make our book available for people all over the world, that we can actually print a book, and we don't have to have a printer. We don't have to have a print run. We can put something, that's really, ones and zeros, I guess, in computer, code, translated into a PDF, into something that's hopefully stylized adequately, and people can get it all over the world. So that's really pretty neat. But again, there's lots of competition that comes along with that. There's lots of people that are kind of trying to get into that market. And so, my thought for tonight was, all right, let's share some real sentiments and real thoughts on why people aren't able to succeed. Folks that we work with, we do our very best to help them put manage their expectations. So I think that's a good first starting point. What does it mean to succeed? Think about what does failure look like and what does success look like? Does failure look like, okay, I didn't become a New York Times bestseller? Okay, then most books probably are going to be failures. Does it mean that I failed to get even a single download? Okay, well, most books actually are probably going to meet that benchmark for success, so that's good. But there's a million areas of gray in between that. And so, okay, what do I have a target in mind for the number of downloads? Is that a realistic target? Is that something achievable? Is that something that I can strategize around, maximizing the opportunity for? Okay, great. Do I have a benchmark for success that includes a certain number of reviews? Does it include a certain number of email opt-ins? Does it include a certain number of people who go on to purchase a video series that you have? Does it mean a certain amount of affiliate income that you have because you drive people over to your website and they sign up for your email list and you have a really active affiliate campaign? Is that what success looks like? Is success entering the common vernacular? Is it something that you become a household name? Well, there are probably only a handful of authors who can kind of reach that point, but maybe that's success for you, and that's fine. So the first thing I would say is, what's your benchmark for success, and how can I strategize and be realistic about what it would take to actually achieve that? You might be able to become a household name, if you have a $1 billion marketing budget behind you. Do you have a $1 billion marketing budget? Probably not. So maybe that's not the best benchmark for you to use. Anyway, so the next tip I want to share is, are you paying attention to what the market is looking for? Are you producing a book that is going to be something that is that has people looking for it already? Or is it going to be something that is a passion project? You just have this story burning inside of you. Okay, if that's the case, maybe you shouldn't expect to be on the New York Times bestseller. You might get lucky, but there may not be a market for it. Thank you, Jordan, for commenting. Howdy, Dale. Yep.
Yeah. And Rob, I just want to say real quick, what you're describing right there, the first book that I wrote, The Action Diet, I think that fits right into that. It was more a passion project. It was kind of my memoir of like, hey, this is how I lost weight. And I went into it thinking, we've talked about this before. I went into it thinking, this is going to be it. Like, I'm going to sell so many books. This is going to make me, thousands of dollars every month. And that wasn't the case with that book. I didn't have a reasonable definition of success. And we do try to mention that to our authors when we work with them, and just the people that, the people that are watching this video, we try to share that with them, kind of try to have a measure that you're looking at of success for yourself, and then, hit that and then make a new goal and move on from there. But don't make it something that is going to kill you from the beginning. Don't think, I want to make thousands per month off this one book. It can happen. It has happened to authors. Some people have a lot of success. You write a book and it fits the market just the right way. And it's what people are looking for at that moment. It could blow up, that's the whole one, just great reason to self-publish and to dive into it, is to give yourself the opportunity. You can't win if you don't play. Right. And it just gives you that, obviously we're not talking lottery stuff, you gotta, there's a lot you can put into it besides just luck. but luck is an element to it too.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. And, thanks for sharing as well about the action diet. And, we have this idea because we're in our own heads to a large extent, and because something might be really personally meaningful. It's like, well, my story is probably the same as everybody else's story, or this is something that everybody else can relate to. And maybe it can, and maybe it might not, but you want that objectivity to come into it, and you want to give yourself a chance to actually assess it on a, from a non-biased perspective as much as you can. And that's why it's helpful, in some cases to have an outside influence, whether it's Archangel Inc. or, another trusted friend or colleague, hopefully somebody who has a little bit of a pulse of the publishing industry. That's helpful. You can get great advice and great insight from all sorts of different sources, but having some sense of, okay, where does this actually fit and where does this stand? So there's a resource that I want to mention, and that is the Writer on the Side podcast. It's by Hassan Osman. Hassan was gracious enough to ask me to participate several podcast episodes ago. I'll include a link down below to his podcast, but I listened to one of them recently, and his guest was a traditionally published author, and she writes about virtual teams. And that's something that Hassan's written about as well. Hassan, I think in this case, was a technical editor for the book, and so provided some feedback. And that was kind of how they knew each other. But this author was published by a traditional publishing house. And that publishing house actually reached out to her and said, hey, we see your LinkedIn profile. We see the content that you're producing there. We see that you're kind of a thought leader in this field. And we want you to produce a book, and we're going to, help you produce it. We want to publish it on your behalf. And so a couple of things that she mentioned that they did really effectively. And the first is the main one that I want to share, which is they did a lot of research putting together the table of contents. So they did a lot of SEO research on it, and they did a lot of sort of market research as well. So it's SEO to see what people are looking for, and then market research in the sense of, have people been writing about this already in the same way? And if they have been writing about roughly the same topic, are they approaching it from a different angle? So one, you want to see that there's a market for it, and two, you want to provide the most value as possible to your readers. And so another reason that people fail is they're not thinking about their readers. They're not thinking about the end consumer, the person who is ultimately going to be supporting this book. Is there a market for what you're talking about? Or is it highly niche? If it's highly niche, maybe there is a different approach that you can take. You can really start building a followership in that arena, really, again, establish yourself as a thought leader, and diving in. Or if it is already an existing market, that's great. So what can I do to approach it in a new or interesting way that's going to speak to your target demographic? Something that Dale has talked about before, his first book he put out was an exercise book for everybody. He's like, well, everybody needs exercise. Everybody needs personal training. Well, yeah, maybe that's the case, but you can't really write a book for everybody. So you have to figure out, okay, here's a better book. Dieting for moms, or dieting for moms who just gave birth and are trying to become active again. Just figure out who you're writing for, and then speak from that perspective. Really kind of target down who you want to assist, so you can maximize your efforts, especially when it comes to a really big and broad category like fitness. So okay, I'll stop talking for the moment and let you share anything that you have on that.
No, I was just thinking about one of our clients, Sarah Gaviria. I think it's Gaviria. I might be butchering that last name, but she writes to not just moms, but she has a very specific moms that have just given birth, and her focus is on, hey, we want to focus on you. There's tons of parenting books out there, but here's this book that's going to focus on the mom. Like how do you survive and thrive as a mom after pregnancy, after giving birth. And it's just that's the idea of that niching down and finding that, specific market for that. And there's definitely, there's a market for that. There's moms that want to know, like, hey, I've read all these books about parenting, but hey, I want to like get a little bit of self-help for me. Right. And you could probably even niche down from there too. But it's just that idea.
Yeah, no, and I think her book is it the Happy Stay-at-Home Mom, something like that. Yeah, and so okay, so we're targeting stay-at-home moms for one, not moms who are getting back into the workforce very quickly. And then maybe there's some conversation you can niche down further. The stay-at-home mom who's coming from owning their own business or looking to start to own their own business and be able to do that while being a caretaker and at home, or somebody who's coming from a particular industry. Maybe this is you've been working professionally, you have a really developed career, and you're struggling with that transition, to becoming a mom. You realize that this is something that you want to do, but you're trying to figure it out. And so, yeah, you really want to figure out who you're speaking to. And again, you don't have to have a perfect knowledge of it, but okay, so let me backtrack for a second. Another reason that people fail is because they don't have credibility, and credibility can come either from experience or from research. And you don't have to be the most experienced. You don't have to have experience being a stay-at-home mom for multiple children. You don't have to be a nanny or caretaker or coach to stay-at-home moms necessarily to do this, but you have to have some credibility or some research. And if you're transparent about it, that's going to help you as well. So, let's say I'm writing a book about, becoming a rock guitarist, and you're not a professional. This isn't I don't know, the guitarist for some name your favorite band. You're not Eric Clapton or something who's the best in the world. He's going to have instant credibility, but you want to have at least a little bit of credibility, hopefully some followership, some reason that people are thinking about you and talking about you already. But then also, some research. Okay, what are the best techniques out there? Maybe do your homework, figure out there's 100 books on the market. So read the top dozen on how to become a good guitarist, a good rock guitarist, maybe even specifically. And what are the different approaches that people talk about? What are the different analogies that people draw that are overlapping that you can, kind of parse together? What are the recurring themes? What are the orthogonal ideas that come out of left field, but are really helpful, that you found really helpful as you're growing about your journey? Maybe you approach it from the sense of, okay, there's something that I'm doing that is new and hopefully can speed up that journey for somebody else. So again, you're really thinking about what the consumer is going to get out of this. And so again, so let's summarize a couple of those points, because I know we're not going to talk super long. I hope everybody's having a great Halloween, by the way, and enjoying their candy. If you're out with family trick-or-treating and watching this later, thanks for stopping in. But a few points. One, why do people fail? They don't have a good metric of success, so that they, even if they succeed, they think that they fail because they haven't charted out what that looks like. They don't have realistic expectations. So how can you get realistic expectations? Do your research, do your homework, possibly bring on some help to manage those expectations appropriately. They aren't thinking about the consumer. They're not separating out what the consumer should be looking for or is looking for from what they're writing, and they're not writing accordingly. If you're thinking about what your consumer wants, you maximize or enhance anyway your chances of success. And four, you're not bringing something to the table, whether that's credibility or research. Credibility through research, experience or research. Something that's going to make your words worthwhile to read, and not just the happenstance thoughts of somebody who decided to put a book together. So those are a handful of ideas that I wanted to share on why people fail at self-publishing. And hopefully those are instructive as to how you can not fail, how you can think about it differently, approach it a little bit differently, and determine what is going to be success for you. What does that look like? And how can you make that a reality?
I think wrapping that all up, Rob, I want to mention one final one that we've talked about before, is creating a quality product. I think all of that kind of bleeds into that. If you're doing the right research, if you're trying to write a book that is to market, and you're spending the time doing that, and you're making sure that all of the pieces are fitting together nicely, you're learning how to do it, you're getting help, whatever you're going to do for that. At the end of the day, you're going to have a lot more success if the final product is better. I know we talked about that before. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but I think that is an important one to remember. Your first book isn't going to be, most likely isn't going to be like a New York Times bestseller, unless you already have a large platform. If you're a movie star, and you have a large platform and you decide to write a book, maybe there's a chance it's going to become a bestseller.
Right. Brad Pitt's first book, if he decides to write one, probably will do pretty well.
Yeah. You know? And it may not even be good, but it's because he's Brad Pitt, it's going to sell.
But it's got his name on it, so that helps.
Yeah. But just the idea, if you don't have much of a platform, if you've never written before, it's really hard to break into it. But, we think it's important, and I always mention too, try to, build from a quality standpoint, focus on that. We're big on that here at Archangel Inc. We want quality, we want stuff to be good, because we're looking at it for the long haul and for that longer term purpose. That's where we're going to find success.
Right. Awesome. Great points. Folks, if you have any comments, questions, thoughts for future topics, if you want us to talk more about this or less about this and more about other things, we'd love to hear it. Yep. Again, happy Halloween, everybody. A little bit of a quick one tonight, but thanks Dale, and anybody else who stopped in on the chat live. And we appreciate it. And we'll look forward to catching up with you folks next time. Anything else to add, Jordan?
Nope, I'm good. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Have a great night, everybody. Happy Halloween.
See you guys.